Perfect. So, Somraj, looks like it's recording. And first of all, thank you so much for being on the call. I really appreciate you being on the call. I love that you're wearing a Duke t-shirt. That's also important for me. So I'll try to give a brief background about you from myself. So everybody, Somraj and I, we did our masters in engineering management from the same university, that is Duke, and we were a part of the same batch. And I'm not sure when and how I met Somraj, but I know the relationship is really nice since the day whenever we did meet. So it's a really nice guy. And the other part is that we and I share the same undergraduate batch as well. So he's a batch of 2019 and I'm a batch of 2019. So I think some things by default get connected when you're part of the same batch, the thought process and whatnot. I don't know. So that's that. And now I would like to ask Somraj a brief introduction from your side. Somraj, if you can share your few initial thoughts.
Yeah. Thanks, Shubham, for inviting me to the call. And as we have already tried to pay it forward, and it's again where we clicked together to pay it forward. So, yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up in the very far eastern part of India and much different from the regular Indian cities. It was a small town. I did my mechanical engineering from there itself, NIT Agartala, and got fortunate to work on some nationally important projects initially in the construction field, especially while working with Larsen and Toubro. Uh, was on Ratan Tata's Tata Cancer Care Foundation hospitals, but I was not liking the construction industry because I was always an automotive guy. Being from mechanical engineering background, all three projects in engineering was related to automotive. So pitched that idea to the management. I was fortunate enough to get transferred to at least mechanical engineering core related fields in the heavy engineering division of L&T. Far west again now, in Gujarat. I was there in Surat for 2.5 years. Worked in the oil and gas industry specially, and in the manufacturing field, I was the kind of technical project manager kind of a role there. Heavily customizable products, huge products like 100 meters long, 1,000 tons. And mostly my clients were from the US. At After a year or so, I have worked with people or stakeholders from 7 different countries. That was great. And what was more important, I was always an army fanatic. Just always wanted to contribute to the nation. So even though couldn't make it, I appeared for SSB twice, but couldn't make it. But still, then when it felt like we were making something for the world, and it gave me an immense pride. The last 1.5 years almost with the transition, I was into totally engineering, getting a lot of approvals from clients, from compliant authorities, from licensors, all these things that comes into oil and gas, and got fortunate working on the fertilizers industry as well for a bit because L&T played a big role in India's green revolution. So by the time when I was in the engineering side of it, all the reactors that were produced then had to be replaced now, and all those orders came back. I didn't want to miss that opportunity to contribute for the next 50 years. So got an opportunity to work there. Always loved engineering, and that's how sometime felt to go for an MBA because I thought that the decisions that are made behind those engineering concepts was pretty cool, and I wanted to do this after 3 years of totally engineering. So MBA, I had a threat like I might go away from engineering. So that's where I started to search for courses which will make me remain close to engineering, but on the, as I mentioned, like the decision making side on the engineering companies. So that's how I got to know about this program called engineering management, because particularly engineering management kind of course are not offered in any of the big schools in India. And again, coming to the US was never even I thought of. So it was totally dependent on the programs, the career path I wanted to pursue that make me land here. And also, again, I applied for 5 or 6 universities only to the. Mm, don't want to brag, but still to the big schools only. So my idea was like, if I can make it, I will go, or if I don't, then that's fine. I was doing well in L&T. So somehow it worked. I got into, won't mention other, got into Cornell and Duke. Cornell being an Ivy. Still one of the most happiest days in my life, March 3rd, 2022. In the morning when I woke up and the email from Cornell was there and the admission letter. But then there was a dilemma whether Duke or Cornell, because Cornell being in the Ivy League, and yeah, then landed up at Duke finally. Wrote an email to Cornell's program director. Interestingly, got to know she is a Duke alum, and Professor Morales at Duke was from Cornell. So that was pretty interesting, and she wished me luck, and definitely it was a good conversation, and then the actual struggle began. So when we landed in the US, so every time we went to a new place in India, it had like a room to already furnished. Either you are in a hotel or you are in a room or you are in a company accommodation or anything. So entered the room, it was total naked, right? Only the wooden floor with yellow lights. Nothing for you. Shubham, I guess we can relate what we were into. So right from there, understanding how what it takes to be in the US, to not only like having a big badge in your resume like Duke or whatever you have done in a country like India. Yes, that matters, but it's about like you're totally different. You're a baby now. You don't know about the geography. You don't know about how all the names of the states even. But when in India, growing up like for 22 years, 23 years there, you are almost you had a say in everything that happens in India. But in the US, you are totally new. And right from there, building up confidence, working hard, believing that someday it will come back, someday it will come back, believing on the Almighty and being honest to ourselves with integrity. And most importantly, resilience. As I always believe, yeah, definitely action speaks louder than words, but what speaks louder than both is resilience.
Right.
Having the consistency is what makes a difference. I guess Shubham will also agree to it, because that is what at least helped us, I believe.
Right. Perfect.
Mm. Now, currently, after that, from Duke, got an opportunity to intern with Tesla. I worked with the Cybertruck batteries initially for the mechanical components, mostly into like supply chain program management. And since working with so many global supply managers, took the opportunity to work on supply chain such that I can apply to full time for both the roles.
Mhm.
So, and finally landed, got calls from both TPM and supply chain roles in Tesla. But that's a different story. Why I chose to be in the supply chain domain as of now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Currently working on the batteries,
Perfect.
the battery supply chain. Didn't even know that it is so big. Today's oil and gas kind of.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, thanks for the beautiful introduction, Somraj. And frankly, I didn't know that you had applied for SSB, so this is a new information for me. I didn't know that Duke and Cornell's head of the department were kind of exchanged their background. This guy from being from Cornell and that lady from Duke. But yeah, already a ton of information for me to capture in. But yeah, thanks for sharing. And I think I agree to whatever you said that's something relative to both of us and to me as well, coming from one of the small towns at the northernmost part of India. So I can attest to literally everything that you have said. Perfect. So now I'll try to, take the next gear and which is not there in EV, but
Not
any,
there in gas cars in the US as well, man.
But yeah, moving on to the next step. This is more with regards to your internship experience. So, Somraj, before I get into what kind of questions were asked in the interview for the role that you did in the internship, I want to first talk about how was your journey in terms of the application and how you're dealing with. Was this your first call that you got, or was it one of your first initial calls? And how did you deal with the process till the time you got an interview at Tesla? And then I'll ask a bit more questions on if you can explain the interview process of Tesla.
Got it. Thanks, Shubham. And I started to build the resume in August
Okay.
because we had resumes, but for the US market, it's totally different, right? The way we structure the resume and being everything compiled in a single page. So I think I was a bit late because people started getting internship in September. So I started making the resume by August, September, and then accordingly started applications until the end in March 2023. From September 2022, there were around 460 or 470 applications in that range between 450 and 500. Applied mostly to roles which aligned with my experience in India. I didn't try to like anchor myself into something which I have not done before, but definitely wanted to enhance upon something which I have done in India. Like, more importantly, I felt like sustainability is a big thing in the US, clean energy, sustainability, and being from a manufacturing background, I felt like there's a lot that I can contribute to that industry itself. Uh, talked with people over LinkedIn. So, firstly, reached out to people over LinkedIn, definitely. And then, as everyone knows, as it goes. So, got connected with some people there, had a talk there. Some people provided me the reality there in that field, and actually I felt uh, exciting about the offshore wind, and also got myself involved in some groups in Duke called Oceans at Duke, then from the Nicholas School of Environment. Then there was some climate related stuff going on, and mostly talked with people, yeah, and researched a bit, applied for both to roles in sustainability and manufacturing and everything else in supply chain. And also, always being a automotive enthusiast, Tesla is like the exact intersection of sustainability and mobility. So I want, yeah, it was my target, but never explicitly I thought or let my mind understand that if I not get into Tesla, the life is end there. So didn't make it happen to my mind, even though it was always in the subconscious that Tesla is where I want to go. Uh, Started applying, lots and lots of rejections, lots and lots of ghostings. Mm, then got a few calls starting December, I remember. Yeah, December 2022,
Two.
2022, right? 2022. Then appeared for a few interviews. Hiring managers were pretty. I won't take the company names.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, Hiring managers were pretty impressed. Then there were panels. There were even I had a company which was pretty reputed. Even and it was for a data center infrastructure role for in manufacturing supply chain kind of. Even though it's a tech company, so pretty impressed. All of a sudden, got to know the person with whom I will be working with. She got COVID, and that's why my interview schedule got postponed, even though I have already done two rounds before. So I was hopeful for that. the hiring manager felt like I feel that I was able to convince him about my interest, and he also provided some positive feedbacks. A couple of weeks later, got rejection email for that role. So tried reaching out to the hiring manager, the recruiter, but didn't hear back as usual. Another company which was into into green hydrogen, they were manufacturing electric hydrogen, kind of startup, but it has, I still believe they have a huge potential, and still like interviewed for a role, talked with the hiring manager, also like went quite good, uh, but still couldn't make it. I don't know why. Again, reached out, then this didn't happen. Then there was another company that was into FMCG products, FMCG supply chain. So didn't my background didn't suit that much, but my vision and like what I wanted to do kind of aligned with that. Got a call, had a talk, didn't make it. Then Tesla reached out. That was in the last week of Feb 2023. So uh, Tesla first round happened for like a program manager kind of a role. Then another lady talked after the recruiter call, of course, and then the hiring manager talked, and finally I made it. And it was again first week of March, I guess. Oh, sorry, no, second week of March, like around 14th, 15th, kind of. I got the offer letter. As soon as I got the offer letter, booked my ticket to India. So after that, came back, like went to India for 8 or 9 days, came back, and that's when I started working for Tesla in May 2023. Yes.
Okay. So looks like March is a good time for you. You got your offer letter from Duke in March, and you got your internship
Yeah,
offer.
offer letter from Duke was in February 21st, 2022. The offer letter from Cornell was March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So, Somraj, I think one of the questions that I hear high up is that I think I'm sure a lot of people have already asked you that question. So I think I would be one of the last ones to ask you this question. But we did our masters from Duke's MEM program, wherein the traditional thought process is doing product management. You're already laughing, so I understand where I know where you understand where my question is going to go. So, and you were really enthusiastic about supply chain management in general. How I already know about that is that you were a part of the council as well. Irrespective of Tesla, there was something I think at a personal level that you were doing in. So I just wanted to understand that. How is it different to study in a program where a majority of the people are focused in product management, and then your approach is to get into supply chain management and also maybe encourage others to get into, because you're part of the council as well. So how did that align, and how was that journey, if you can share a few quick insights on that, and maybe why supply chain management as well specifically.
Yeah, thanks, Shubham, for this. I'll have to take some time to think about aligning all the points together. Uh, because let's start from my past and then let's come to Duke.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, right, I did my engineering, mechanical engineering back in NIT Agartala, right, which is also, as I mentioned, is like very far away corner of the country, which is connected to the mainland with a single highway, which is the lifeline, the National Highway 44, then National Highway 8 now. So, in my second year, that is when I built a motorcycle that ran on both petrol and CNG. So, but for that, I needed a certain size of a cylinder that fits into the motorcycle chassis, and that was a real pain. And
Okay.
also the other components that I would require to that my team would require to like do the fabrication stuff. This was first challenge that I faced. The second one was when I was in third year, I was into SAE Baha competition where we all built an all-terrain vehicle mm, uh, for all-terrain vehicle. That is a national level competition by Society of Automotive Engineers. Mostly people in mechanical engineering domain would know about this. So not going much into it. Again, this was also from that part of the country. And building a car at that, like building a buggy at that part of the country was really, really difficult. So with all these happening, and I was leading the powertrain part of it, like the gearbox and to transmit the power from the engine to the wheels. Procuring anything or like sourcing anything was a real pain then. So for that, I had to plan very early, even though technically we were sound, we had the capabilities, we had the facilities, but there was something which is controlled by external factors, right? Which can disrupt your project schedule.
Correct. Correct.
That's where I started to applying concepts in supply chain, concepts of supply chain, even before I knew that supply chain is the technical term. So it all came naturally to me. So even I heard when I was in the main event in Indore that by the time when we shipped out our cars after manufacturing it is when NIT Jalandhar started to make their cars. We were the first team from Northeast India to ship our cars, and the duration it took to come from there was like a big number. Okay, so going to so that is where my interest for supply chain started. In L&T, when I was working on some critical projects for a US client, at that time it was COVID, and there was certain alloy that were going into the reactor, which was manufactured by only a single supplier, like a steel plant in Belgium. So worldwide, there were only one or two candidates who appeared for it, and being and that was kind of like 13-14 months project, and the procurement less like the procurement timeline was 7 months, and you had only six months to complete it and then ship it out to Texas in the US. So that is when again this came naturally to me, and I did some stuff there. While in Duke, I felt that supply chain people with supply chain interests are much less. One reason is people don't know that much about supply chain. So supply chain is a kind of a role which people comes to know when it's not working correctly. If everything is working smooth, people don't know about supply chain. So that's how supply chain became a buzzword after COVID. Before that, since time immemorial, supply chain has been there. Now talking about the alignment between supply chain and product management. So I feel like product management is something which can be applied in every field. It's all about the empathy. Yeah, definitely. I don't build products that directly goes to the customer, but the qualities that are required to build a product or deliver to the customer is what Duke teaches you.
Correct.
What while talking with people with product management enthusiasm teaches you. So I leverage that. So definitely when I'm working internally, I might be sourcing batteries, but somebody is my customer. I need to understand where it's coming from. I need to understand what the customer at the downstream level who drives a Model Y or a Model 3 or a Model S wants, right? And how it matters. So definitely I applied for the Illuminate course to understand what product management is, has been through that rigorous curriculum for one semester, and I really enjoyed it, but I also felt that product management is not my cup of tea. I'm into totally different my I'm built differently. Like yeah. So that's where when my our senior batch started the supply chain club, I was fortunate to be in the founding committee of that club. But again, it was so bad times that I didn't even qualify for that interview as well. So somebody vacated that place and I got into that supply chain. So I'm such a stupid fellow. So like so that's what the motto was, to make people aware of what supply chain is actually. And since too much as I mentioned, like there is always an opportunity to apply your product management skills. Right now, so we have in Tesla, we have product managers working on supply chain tools. So some of my juniors at Duke reached out to discuss about like what kind, because they don't have supply chain background, but they definitely have product management knowledge and product management experience. I'd love to talk like what, how his customers would expect from him or his team kind of. So that's pretty interesting, and that is how I aligned supply chain and product management stuff at Duke.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
Thanks, Somraj. That's an amazing description and well thought of description of what you mentioned. So thank you so much for that. Now I want to get into the next step of the questions that were asked. If you're okay with sharing, I mean, if not, I'm not sure if you would be remembering the exact same questions, but something on lines of what people can prepare for in a Tesla interview, and let's get down specific to supply chain as well. So if you can share your thoughts on that.
Hmm. So, questions in Tesla was in a single line. It was mostly about why.
Okay.
It no matter what I succeeded or I failed, the what I could understand as I can understand now, it's all about why I thought like that. Because in Tesla, I believe problems are new every day. So it's all about how we think about that problems and come to a solution together. So the philosophy was trying to dig up why I thought like that and whatever it takes in between. So resume is fine. Even my full-time interview, my hiring manager mm, when took my in first second round, they didn't even ask or like refer my resume. It's and then some problems came up, situations were asked about, mm, then yeah, some situations were given to me, what would I do on those kind of things, and how do I convince, or at a point of time, say when I mentioned like I took all those decisions during COVID, why I did that, how I did that, and also personally, like I as a person, how I moved the needle. Team is fine because everyone in the team should move a needle, and that's when the team becomes a team, right? So it's more about how, what my, like as an individual, what my contribution was, what was the thought process behind it, and the why it was very important for across the rounds, like internship 3 rounds, and again full time 7 or 8.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. That helps a lot. That's also important to understand why. I think we studied a bit about, I'm not sure if I studied it correctly or not, but I think we had a study more about the five whys. I guess somewhere I've read that. I'm not sure of the details, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly, that 5 why also, that's how I justified myself why I joined want to join Tesla.
Wow. Nice. Nice.
Right.
Okay. That's a helpful thought. Okay, and so right now I'm gonna get onto the full-time piece of it. So first of all, I want to understand the internship that you did at Tesla. I know you are working currently in supply chain management in Tesla as well. So first of all, one, is it the same team? And two, if not, how did you end up in that kind of a role? And was it a bit easier for you because you already interned at Tesla? Or would it have been the same even if you were not an intern while you were applying to that full-time role at Tesla?
Hmm. Thanks for asking this, Shubham. And this is where the story begins, actually. I interned at a different team.
Okay.
So, Cybertruck batteries are built in house. So, Tesla build our own batteries, and I was on the mechanical components that worked on those batteries. But my manager, although he wanted to retain me, he didn't have a head count. So, yeah, my manager like super supportive, asked me if I can do another internship under him.
Okay.
That was in spring 2024. He reached out to the, and I also reached out to the recruiter to know about the policy, but Tesla doesn't allow to do internship after one is graduated, or like one graduates from the masters or any other program. So that was not an option. And my team, my existing team, where I did some good job or kind of thing, uh, sort of, so didn't have an head count. So as all interns do, started reaching out to people over Teams. So just crafted a brief message that I am interning here, going to Duke. Background is this. Achieved these three things during the internship. Reached out to many group managers that whose teams interested me, and definitely people in Tesla are busy. Initially, I took it personally that a lot of people didn't even respond to me over Teams, because even though I was inside, right, and recruiters even, they didn't respond. So this is quite natural, and I would like to highlight this to the audience, that don't take it personally, because even though people has the intent to reply, they cannot make it because of all the limitations that come up. And in the meantime, I got two or three calls from different teams in Tesla. They just two 2 or 3 weeks before my internship ended. That was in December.
Okay.
And also my manager reached out to other related group managers or even directors, and I got a call from that side also, and that is the supply chain management role. With that, the 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 recruiter or the sourcer, I believe, she moved ahead quite fast, and TPM kind of role was what attracted me a lot. But since it was a GSM role, and going back to one of the most important things in my professional life, that was advised to me by my manager there, is all we need right at this stage of our career, we need to build our niche strength. Program management is really, really necessary or very important to a company, but we need to be able to contribute individually, because at this level we are mostly ICs, individual contributors. So that's why we should have a niche strength. Mechanical engineering was my niche strength, but the field I was going into, I should have something to stand upon. So I believed battery is big, one thing. The second thing is I need to build my strength working in core supply chain, which is also huge. Supply chain, when we say, we mostly think about logistics, but it's a very vast field of practice. Uh, so that's why I start, like, as the recruiter fast forwarded, and I also felt interested and went ahead with the flow. Coming to the second question, being an intern, did this help? Yes, it helped, but I had to go through the same process that an external candidate would go through, because it was a totally different team. The team didn't know me, who I am, or like what work I do. So it was everything same. The only leverage I got is due to the good work that I did under my manager, who recommended me to another manager, and it came down to me. And it's not that I was the only candidate who interviewed for that role.
Yeah.
External candidates also applied for that role. They were interviewed for that role as well. So the second benefit that I got, because solely of my team being able to interview me in my last week of internship, is that whatever I worked upon during my internship was in a presentation which I am not allowed to take out of Tesla system. So all that, if I am outside, so uh, I won't have access to. So that helped definitely. even though I tried to send it out to one of my Duke seniors before I didn't know like whether it will get scheduled. So all those presentations I sent to her. She was also a Duke senior. Keep it in case if I have an interview after I go out, such that she can send it to the hiring manager and we can continue from there. So these are the two benefits that I had for being in Tesla, but no other benefits like some liberal interviews or some less rounds of interview kind of. No, I had to go through 7 rounds of interview, including a panel for the full time role. And there were other candidates also. And hopefully I was able to address the question, right?
Yes, yes. So thank you so much for explaining this question, because why is this question important for me specifically? I mean, if not me or others who are listening to it, is because sometimes what happens is that you get an interview, but then a lot of time what happens is that you don't understand one who is also interviewing for the process, and is it the same background and story for them as well. So I mean, the important thing that you shared is to understand is that even if you somebody is external, it's like an equivalent process. I think
Exactly.
the part that as you mentioned, one of the two benefits that you got, one of the benefits is like, because a lot of people already signed an NDA and also they cannot share information. So couldn't you? So that's like an obvious one, which was important. The only one point is that at least you might have received the call per se, but the cracking the interview was still up to you at the end of the day. So if I have to talk about somebody, if somebody was, I know somebody's also still applying to that role and they kind of get to know about an internal candidate is also interviewing, the one thing major here, as you mentioned, is kind of to understand that it's the same process, that you and the other person who's maybe been an intern or kind of has already followed the process is going to be the same for everybody, because this is one of the clarities that I feel like sometimes people are unaware of, because the process is not the same. And why it did help is this question specifically to you, because a lot of times people do the full time in the same team they intern
Team. Correct. Correct. Yeah.
where. Perfect. Perfect. I think frankly, that were the questions that I had, and it's been a lovely conversation with you, and I personally gained a lot from this conversation, and so I'm hopeful that so should be this the same for others. And I think before the call, while we were speaking so much, I know you told me about you already anyways talked to a lot of people in general, so I feel that's really good, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about, we all belong to the same society. So, and
Right.
are trying to help others, and know what kind of change we would be end up making in general. But even if it's as small as talking to one person at a time is, I feel like it's still helpful. Maybe, that it has a positive impact that even once on one single person as well. So one, I appreciate you being on the call, and two, I do appreciate you anyways talking to a lot of people in general to help others. So thanks again for being on. So
Thank you so much, Shubham. Thank you so much for taking out the time to how do I say channelize our messages, the struggles that we have done, and like putting it up in front of the world that this is what the truth is, and people who have already made it here might also, then definitely will also be make it somewhere big. Yeah. And also one thing I want to communicate is it's not about the companies that we work in. It's not about how it's a fang or a mang, or I don't know like how it's like framed these days. So it's all about the problems of the world that we are solving,
correct.
regardless of being in a 5 people startup or a 500,000 people company worldwide. So it's all comes down to what model we as individuals are moving from the schools or from the background or from the society or from the parents or from the home where we are coming from.
Yeah.
So that is what the like I would like to conclude my take with, because don't go for like big names or like it's not about somebody working in a small company is not doing such great work. Very small companies are also moving things around the world. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Somraj, for ending on that note, because a lot of times I think I would also say that, and I want to be truthful and open about it. I think maybe I also have this mindset of, big names and big companies, which isn't actually the case, but I know I think it's like instilled in our mind since the beginning and whatnot, to which we end up in these kind of situations. But yes, agreeing to what you said, I think at the end of the day, it's you as what difference are you making as an individual in maybe the company that you're working in, and it has no relation with how many number of employees are there in that company.
And again, it comes down to product management, the job to be done. So
Yeah.
what is see? So it's all about what job we are doing and how it's impacting the world in a positive way.
Great. Perfect.
Right.
Thank you so much,
It
Somraj.
was a pleasure talking with you, Shubham, after some time now,
Thank
and we'll stay in touch.
you.
Thank you so much.